What's up, guys? This is Mitch with SC Weather. I wanted to bring y'all a video today talking about if hurricane season is over for us here in the Carolinas and the immediate southeast. It has been very quiet since we had Hurricane Isaias that hit back in early August, and just hasn't been a lot going on in the tropics. We did get energy from what was left of Sally that rolled through last week, but other than that, no direct impact. So what we got going on is we're about to enter October. Here in South Carolina specifically, October is normally a crazy month as far as crazy weather. But before we get started, if you haven't subscribed, I appreciate it if you do. If you want to keep stay updated here in the weather here in South Carolina and the Carolinas, and just I talk weather, major events here in the southeast, and also I stay very active on Twitter right here and Facebook. So follow along. I'm very active. I try to answer people back very quickly, and it would be awesome if y'all could follow along. But let's get started. So October hurricanes here are not super uncommon around here. In fact, we've actually passed peak season, but a lot of our action falls after peak season, and as you can tell, this is the October graphic here. What normally happens is the far Atlantic out, the eastern Atlantic, kind of, as far as waves coming off Alaska, coming off Africa, starts to shut down out here. You just don't get much activity when you get later in hurricane season. But what you do is you get the chances for the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean is still very warm even in October. So you have the chance for development to form in that area and then kind of ride north into the southeast, whether it plows into Florida, the Panhandle, and then cruises up through us, whether it does what kind of like Sandy did, which was very rare. Maybe Matthew from a few years ago that scraped the coast. It did a lot of damage. But, her peak season, as you can tell, is September 10th. And we are getting on the downhill. But I tell you, all of our hurricanes, especially here in the Carolinas, a lot of them impact us after peak season. So with almost a little secondary peak season kind of as we get into the middle of October. And there's a reason there's a little peak right here, because we get a lot of action in mid-October for some reason. One big example of that was Hurricane Michael 2 years ago that hit the Florida Panhandle. Was a Category 5. And then pretty much just bull rushed right into South Carolina and Carolinas and caused a lot of action. But, this is just something that we need to definitely take in consideration here. Hurricane season is definitely not over. I do think it's taking a break, and it might be a pretty long break, but there's a couple. And check it out. Michael is a big example of this. This made landfall, I think, October 10th to October 11th of 2018, and just kind of cruised right through the Carolinas, Georgia, and the Carolinas. But it's an example of another hurricane that made landfall very, relatively late in the hurricane season. Another good example here is Hurricane Matthew, which was a major deal here in South Carolina. It did a lot of damage along the coast, and it shut down half the state literally for a good solid week at least. But it was an October storm. And around the October 8th range is when it impacted the state. Another thing I don't have here is that is worth talking about that was kind of indirectly associated with Hurricane Hakeem. I think I said that right. I believe in 2015, that indirectly caused, the historic flooding here in South Carolina and parts of North Carolina. I had an upper level low that was connected to Hakeem, and it basically did like a fire hose of moisture into the Carolinas here. But obviously, everybody knows Hurricane Sandy and the craziness it did. It was a huge hurricane that formed really, really late in hurricane season. In fact, so late that there was enough cold air in place to cause almost like a blizzard in parts of the southern northeast area in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, even in the North Carolina mountains. around the Halloween time frame. It was incredible. Just a incredible situation that developed, and very dangerous and deadly situation. But big reason why we talk about the Caribbean being a big topic is because, yes, some of the tropical activity has cooled down the Gulf of Mexico, but it is still warm, especially areas south of Cuba and the Big Islands, and this area right here, still in the mid to upper 80s as far as temperatures. So even though, you know, we're kind of done for the most part of activity kind of out here in the Eastern Atlantic, I do think it's starting to shut down for the season. An area we need to watch is definitely the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, for things to form right around here and then quickly strengthen and come up through here, or whether they come up through here and scrape the coast or just directly slam into Florida. So I do think there's going to be another peak time for us in the southeast. I tell you what, the western Gulf states have been very active with Laura, Beta, and Sally around this area right here. But one thing, and this is the kind of the last thing I want to talk about, because I don't want to be one of these hype people that talk about something that might not even happen, that hasn't happened. Because I did predict in one of my videos that South Carolina, October was going to be a big month to watch for areas in the Carolinas for tropical development. But one thing that may force this not to happen, basically, is these continuous troughs and cold fronts that we keep getting pushed through the southeast. We have one in place now, a strong high pressure that obviously prevents any tropical development from moving here in the Carolinas and the southeast and parts of the southeast. But what we have is, for example, short term, we have another trough about to sweep through middle part of next week. And, you know, when you get a cold front like this, you can't get any hurricane development you can get hurricane development down here in the Gulf, but it's going to stay in the Gulf. It's not going to be able to ride north because you have dry air in place, and you have a cold front to sweep through that's going to push any tropical development elsewhere. So if we keep getting troughs like this in October, which is rare to get them continuously like this, then you're not going to have any tropical development. You'll have tropical development, but you won't have it make it into the southeast, because it'll push it back and move it out to sea, whether it moves it back over here or keeps it down here to the point where it gets sheared away, or dry air gets to it because of these continuous troughs. So fall air has been nice, one, but two, it's going to save us from any tropical mischief here in the coming weeks as we try to get to the latter part of hurricane season. So that is something to consider. If you don't want any hurricanes, which most people don't unless you're a big-time storm chaser or anything like that, then you're going to keep wanting to pull for these cool air masses that keep sweeping down. But that's pretty much all I got. I do think the Gulf is going to stay warm through October. So if you get a break in these troughs that keep going through, kind of like this weekend, for example, if something was to form and kind of ride up into the southeast, this weekend would be a big weekend to do it, because there's nothing really stopping it. I haven't really checked shear, for example, in the Gulf, but as far as dry air, there's a brief period where there is none. So that's all I got. We need to keep watching. It's not over. It's felt like we haven't had any activity here in a while, major activity, but we need to keep watching October. That's all I got, guys. Y'all have an awesome day.